Greetings. This is Justin Allen, the Elite Nurse Practitioner. Welcome to the Elite Nurse Practitioner Show, a podcast dedicated to nurse practitioner entrepreneurism and achieving financial freedom, where I talk directly with nurse practitioners who need help. Listen up, our market is saturated. Jobs can be scarce. We are underpaid. We are undervalued. We are taken advantage of by the sharks within the healthcare system. And frankly, screw that. Sick of it. And it's time for a change. And listen, I'm here to help make that happen. We are powerful. We can forge a path where we are in control of our career and ultimately our financial and personal well-being. You do not need to submit to healthcare administrators and your doctor overlords. You do not have to take the measly salary. You do not have to work 50 to 60 hours a week. There is a different way, and I'm here to show you that path. This podcast is raw and unfiltered. I have not talked with the nurse practitioners in this podcast prior to the call outside of an email exchange to schedule the episode. What you're about to listen to is a consultation session between a nurse practitioner and myself. It is real, it is unscripted, it is unplanned, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Anything and everything can happen during our conversation. The nurse practitioners in these episodes are struggling with an issue in their professional or financial life, and they have reached out to me for help. My goal is to help the nurse practitioner with actionable advice that will enhance and improve their professional, business, and financial life. My other goal is to hopefully help my nurse practitioner sisters and brothers build a more productive, powerful, and free life. So I hope the content and information within these podcast episodes does just that. All right, onto the episode. Hey everyone, Justin Allen with the Elite Nurse Practitioner. Today's episode is going to be another single episode where I'm going to talk about the 3 types of practices that you can start. So this is going to be more of a startup kind of podcast for those thinking about starting their practice, but this is still going to be applicable to those who might be thinking about expanding their practice possibly as well. So I think there'll be benefit for basically everyone, unless you're just, you have multiple practices and you're doing really well anyways. So, but yeah, so there's 3 types of practices, right? So there is standard brick and mortar practice. That's the practice that most people are familiar with, right? That's just like your standard primary care office, your standard weight loss clinic, IV infusion clinic. You see patients locally. You have an office space, patients come in, you provide services, and that's that, right? That is the traditional way to practice, and that model still works very, very well, so don't think it doesn't. Second model is just telemedicine only, right? So that's going to be where you have to see patients via telemedicine. You really don't have an office. Your entire business is digital in nature, right? And then there is the hybrid practice where it's brick and mortar and telemedicine. And in my opinion, that's the best one. Okay. So let's go over the pros and cons of each type of practice. And I'll kind of give you my opinions on which ones work best. I've consulted with, hundreds, if not 1,000 nurse practitioners over the past 5 years who are interested in starting their practices. And I know which ones do well and which ones don't. So, use my experience to help you build a profitable and successful business. So, practice number 1 is the brick and mortar practice, right? So, the pros of brick and mortar practice is that you have a local presence, right? You can have your Google business listing. You have a local watering hole for patients to come to, basically. They come in the door, you see them face to face, and you have a location where preferably it's on like a main street where people can see you. They drive by, they see you. So pro with that is that you can get a lot of walk-in traffic, right? People just see you and they stop by, they come in, they ask questions. Like at my men's health clinics, we have 2 locations, and the amount of walk-in traffic we get is pretty significant. People just drive by, they see their sign, and they walk in, right? So that's going to be one of the biggest pros of a brick and mortar practice. That, having your Google business listing and have like a local presence. Because at the end of the day, guys, people like to support local businesses. Most people do, right? So having a local presence does help improve your credibility, and people like to support a local business. So having that kind of location in a physical space locally does benefit you. having your Google business listing. You can get a Google business listing with a telemedicine practice, but it can be kind of hard. You have to find a location. You have to attach the Google business listing to it. That can be problematic if it's a virtual address. You can use your house, your home address if you want to. I don't recommend doing that if you're doing telemedicine. So that's probably one of the other big pros of having a brick and mortar practice. And plus, ultimately, a lot of people still like to see a provider in person. They still like to walk in the office, shake your hand, look you in the eye. They just like that personal experience. Telemedicine practices tend to be a little impersonal because it's just basically a video or it's a phone call or whatever. So a lot of people still do like that in-person visit. Predominantly a little older people. Most people that I would say, probably most Gen Z millennials don't really care that much. But Gen X, boomers, that kind of a thing, they still do like to have that in-person visit, right? So I would say those are probably the big pros. Also, you can have a place where you can store your medication. You can do procedures in a brick and mortar location. So, having that physical presence allows you to do more things, right? You can't do procedures with a telemedicine practice, right? So the cons, though, predominantly it's going to be cost. It's going to be the expenses associated with actually having a physical location. And those expenses can be significant and they can be really not that much. It really depends on what kind of location that you want. If you want a brick and mortar practice that's really fancy, it's going to cost you money. Or you can have something really simple. I've always just had simple practices, simple buildings. I don't spend more than $1,400 a month on my office spaces. They're extremely simple in nature. 1,000 square feet is typically all you need for a niche-based cash practice. 2 exam rooms, a lobby, a little reception area, a bathroom, a supply closet. Like, that's really all you need. If you're accepting insurance, on the other hand, it's a numbers game, unfortunately. So you probably need multiple exam rooms so you can see multiple patients in 15-minute windows. But with a cash-based practice, most visits are going to be in the 30 to 60-minute range, so you don't have to have multiple exam rooms, basically. But yeah, the con's going to be the price of it, and that at the end of the day, it's going to be really up to you on what you want. I know many of you are in areas that are expensive. A lot of people that I consult with, they simply they're fearful of getting an office that's $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month. I don't blame them. That is a pretty big risk, especially when you have to sign, a multi-year lease, right? That's probably one of the biggest risks. If you get if you find an office, negotiating a 1-year lease is probably not going to happen. Most landlords in the commercial space are going to make you sign at minimum a 2-year lease. Oftentimes it's going to be 3 to 5 years. And so if you're spending, $2,000, $3,000 a month on a location, you sign a 3-year lease, technically you are on the hook for paying that for 3 years. Now, if you close your business down, you close your practice down and you leave, they're going to put it back on the market. So if someone else rents it, then they'll release you from that lease. But you're still on the hook for it, right? And so you need to be very, very cautious when you are signing a lease for a brick and mortar practice, because it's not going to financially ruin you, but it's going to really put a dent into your financial plans if you're having to pay $2,000-$3,000 a month on an office that, hate to say it, but sometimes a business closes down, sometimes it doesn't do well, and you're on the hook for that. So you're picking up extra shifts just to pay for a lease of a building that's sitting there doing nothing for you. It's a poor investment, right? So when you are looking for physical locations, remember the biggest con is going to be that financial aspect of it. So my advice to everyone that I speak to is sign the minimum lease, okay? Even if it's a little bit more, oftentimes a landlord will let you sign maybe a 1 or 2 year lease, but they're going to charge you a little bit more. In my opinion, spending another couple $100 a month is worth that, okay? Because you're not on the hook for it. So remember that. Try to sign the smallest lease that you can, the smallest duration lease that you can. It will minimize your risk as a business owner. All right. Hopefully your business does well and you don't have to ever worry about that. But, let's just be real here. Sometimes it doesn't work out like you were hoping. Um, Another big con with a brick and mortar practice is it's another financial aspect component of it is that sometimes it costs money to build it out. Sometimes if you could find a retail space in like a little strip mall or something, you go take a look at it and it's essentially an empty shell. There's literally nothing inside of it. There's no walls, there's nothing. Sometimes there's not even a toilet. There's just a hole in the ground for you to put a toilet in. You have to build it out. Guys, that costs a lot of money. It is a big investment to do that, and you don't even own it. So you're essentially improving the equity, the value of this office space or this retail space for the landlord, the person who owns it. And you're doing that basically for free, essentially, from their perspective. You build out a beautiful practice inside of a shell, and your business is closed, and your business closes down. Well, that landlord now gets to enjoy a fully built out medical practice on your expense. So be very cautious with build outs, guys. You can sometimes negotiate for the landlord to build it out for you, but they're going to charge you for it. If it costs you $2,000 a month, let's say you find a retail space and it's $2,000 a month, and it's just an empty shell basically, and it requires some walls to be put in, flooring to put in, lights, electrical, a bathroom, etc. And the landlord's going to, basically be on the hook for that. They're going to make sure they recapture that cost. All right. So your $2,000 a month lease just turned into $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. All right. They're not going to do that for free. Landlords don't do that from the kindness of their heart. Okay. I've been a landlord. Trust me. You don't do anything from the kindness of your heart. You just don't. It's about money. It's a business. All right. You have to treat it like a business. And so they're going to treat that like a business. So be very, very cautious when it comes to leasing a location, the duration of that location, the duration of that lease, and how much it's going to cost to renovate the place, to build it out. Be extremely cautious, because if you are starting a business that isn't proven yet, you don't know if it's going to succeed or not. There's a big difference between having a location that you rent for $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, that's small, and you start a wellness clinic in it and it's doing very, very well. There's a big difference between that and getting another location and building it out yourself because you have a proven business model. There's a big difference between that scenario versus you starting a business from scratch. The business from scratch is not proven. Okay. If you are in a situation where your business is generating $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month in profit, and you want to move to another location because you think it's going to help you grow, that's a good investment. You have a proven business. You moving to another location shouldn't affect, your patient volume, your business itself. It shouldn't affect that. So in a situation like that, I'm on board with that. Especially if you can buy a building, right? So let's talk about that too. It's a pro and a con of a brick and mortar practice. The pro of it is that if you buy your own building, it's yours, right? You are able to build some equity in that. You can basically create a shell LLC to own the office, and then your business basically rents from it. And so you're basically just transferring money from your business account to your other business account that owns the building, right? And so you can charge extra for it, and then you can start writing stuff off through that, through that LLC that owns the building. And then you basically just pay the commercial loan, the mortgage through that. Whatever's left over is yours as a profit from your business. And from a tax perspective, you can use that to write off a bunch of things like driving around and renovations, etc. Another thing too that I've told people before, I know people who own their own building, and they, let's just say they want to put some new flooring in, right? And they unexpectedly order too much flooring, and well, now they're stuck with some extra flooring, and well, I don't know, maybe their kitchen at their house needs some new flooring. So I'll just leave it at that, right? So there are some pros of having, your own building. It builds equity too. I mean, if it's your own, if it's your own practice, you're essentially paying for something that you're eventually going to own. You build equity into it, and 10, 20 years from now, that building that you bought for, let's just say, I don't know, $500,000, it could be worth $1 million 10 years from now. Or it could be worth the exact same thing. Or you could be completely underwater and commercial real estate in your area just, kind of collapses. That's a possibility. There are people that happens to. So that's kind of the con of it, right? Of buying your own building. You just don't know what the commercial real estate market is going to look like 10 years from now. You just don't. I mean, it could be worth a lot more money than what it is worth now, or you could be underwater. It's a possibility. You never know. So you really need to do your due diligence for the area that you are in terms of building a brick and mortar practice, okay? If the area that you are in is reliant on maybe just a handful of industries, and one of those businesses decides to move out of your area, then commercial real estate in your area is probably going to plummet, right? So just be very, very cautious. Do your due diligence. Make sure it is a good investment, because it can backfire on you, okay? So those are mostly the pros and cons of a brick and mortar practice for the most part. I mean, there's always going to be some other little cons there too, like the liability standpoint. If you own your own building, someone falls and breaks a hip, you could be liable for that, which is why you have general business liability. And just FYI, most malpractice policies, especially if you get it through like CMNF Group, you can buy a general business liability policy through that policy for like an extra $150. It's usually nothing, okay? So just kind of be aware of that. Now, the telemedicine component of it, right? The telemedicine practice, telemedicine only, right? We just talked about brick and mortar only. Let's talk about telemedicine only. So the pros of telemedicine, obviously, is that your expenses are going to be much lower in terms of having, an office space. You don't have an office space. You're doing it from your house, right? And so your expenses in that regard are going to be a lot less. You're not going to have utilities. You're not going to have rent. You're not going to have those sorts of things. So right from the get-go, your business is going to have a lot lower expenses compared to a brick and mortar practice. So if you are in the startup phase, starting a telemedicine only practice could be worthwhile if you have a very limited budget, right? So kind of keep that in mind. All right. I hope everyone's enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick break to thank everyone listening and also give a big thank you to all of my social media followers and email subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our email list at www.elitenp.com and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Email subscribers will receive updates on new weekly podcast episodes, multiple weekly articles we publish, new courses, and everything else related to helping you succeed. Remember, all Elite Nurse Practitioner courses are designed to help you build a niche practice, increase your financial strength, and to break free from the rat race. If I can break free and the other countless nurse practitioners can break free, then so can you. Additionally, please share this podcast with your other nurse practitioners, sisters, and brothers out there. The more NPs that venture out on their own, the stronger our profession will become. Now, let's get back to the episode. The other pro of it is that you're not confined to a geographical location, right? You can see patients pretty much anywhere that you're licensed in. You can see patients regionally, locally, throughout the entire state. You can get licenses in other, hopefully full practice authority states. You can see patients in those states. So the scalability of a telemedicine practice is much greater than a brick and mortar practice, because if you want to scale a brick and mortar practice, you have to open up multiple locations, which ultimately is going to increase your expenses, and it's also going to increase your liability, right? So it's scalable, and it's very easy to hire on other providers to see patients for you, because they're going to be working telemedicine. They're going to be working remotely. So you can literally just post an ad somewhere on Indeed.com or whatever and hire a nurse practitioner in another state, and all you got to do is just feed them patients. So it's very scalable. That's what I did with my online HRT practice that I ended up selling back in 2020 or 2021, whatever it was. I ended up having like a dozen NPs working for me, and I didn't see a single patient in that business. Not a single one. I never saw a patient with that business. I just hired NPs in other states, and I just marketed in those states and brought patients on board and fed it to them, right? So it was a very scalable business, and it didn't really require a whole lot of input from me. It was a really hands-off business. It was great, so I was able to sell it. So that's one of the big pros of it. The cons, though, the biggest con, guys, is going to be marketing it. Sometimes, and you guys have heard this in other podcasts, when I talk with people about this, the biggest con is going to be marketing, because there are a lot of telemedicine practices out there. It is very saturated. I hate to say that, it just is. It's very saturated. There's a lot of online weight loss clinics, HRT practices, wellness practices, etc. Not as many functional medicine practices, but it's kind of getting there. Online sick visits. I mean, it's so saturated. Don't even waste your time. Like, I get emails from people. I want to open up a online cash only urgent care or something, and I tell them, don't even bother. Don't even bother. It's a complete waste of your time and money. Don't even waste your time. Okay, because most insurance companies offer that for free. Like a lot of employers offer that for free now. So like, I wouldn't even waste your time with something like that. But it's very, very saturated. And so you have to get the word out. How do you separate yourself from all the other clinics out there? How do you separate yourself from the noise, essentially, right? And that can be something that can be very difficult to do unless you have a large marketing budget. Sometimes, I'm not going to say sometimes, I'm going to say oftentimes, the amount of money you have to spend marketing a telemedicine practice is going to be greater than what you will spend getting a brick and mortar location, okay? Because you're going to have to spend some money to get the word out, all right? Now, that is not always the case. If you want to put some work into it and do some more community engagement, community-based marketing, then you can do that, and that's free. By that, I mean you get into some Facebook groups, some message boards, etc., and you start providing free value to people. So let's just say, for example, you do weight loss, for example, okay? And you find a handful of Facebook groups that talk about weight loss or GLP-1s or whatever. You get in there and you answer people's questions, right? You make some posts, not promoting your practice. Do not do that. Do not promote your practice when you do this, okay? You're simply providing some free value. You answer people's questions in those Facebook groups, those message boards. You make a post maybe talking about something about a GLP-1, some side effects or something, right? You just provide some free value. And your name should have your credentials behind it or something like that. People are going to see that you're responding in a very scientific, medical way. And they're going to be like, they're going to ask you questions. Do you see patients? They're going to look at your profile and they'll see that you own a clinic, that kind of a thing. You can get patients that way. I know people who do that. I know people who do that only, and they get a lot of patients, okay? Or you can create a YouTube channel or a TikTok or something like that and provide some free value that way. You can create a YouTube channel where you talk about a topic that's relevant to your practice and just provide a lot of free value out there. People will find it and they'll see that they'll see if you're taking patients. So that's one way you can do it for free, but it does take some work. Okay, that's going to take some work. Honestly, the best way to do it is to do that and do some paid marketing. Okay, but the biggest con, guys, is that it is saturated. And it is going to cost you money to get the word out there. Okay, those are real. That's, in my opinion, that's the biggest con of a telemedicine practice. The biggest con. Starting a telemedicine practice is pretty easy. I mean, you can get a telemedicine practice up and running in a week or two. I mean, it's really not that hard, right? I mean, our telemedicine course goes over the process, but to summarize it up, get a website, get an EMR, create a couple accounts with some compounding pharmacies, whatever. That's pretty much it. Like, it's really not that complicated of a thing to do. You can get one up you can get one started up pretty fast. So that's probably a pro of it. It's super easy to build, right? It's super easy to create. But I think another con that you need to be aware of is that you're not entirely sure who you're talking to. They can tell you that they're in the state you're licensed in, but they could be lying to you. And there's really no way to know. I mean, there's really no way to find out unless you're tracking their IP address or something, and who's going to do that? So you have to do your due diligence in that regard, make sure they show you an ID, make sure they take a picture of it and put it in your intake form, that sort of a thing to make sure, you verify that they are a resident of that state. But again, they could be lying to you. I mean, they could be in another state, but they just have a license in this other state. I mean, who knows, So that could be problematic. So just be aware of that. HIPAA compliance with telemedicine and, ensuring that you're compliant. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I get a lot of questions about that. And my response is usually just don't worry about it. You don't need super HIPAA compliant email and having a firewall, and you don't need this stuff, guys. Don't worry about it. Your EMR is HIPAA compliant. They have encryption and security measures in place. Just leave it at that. Don't worry about it. Don't lose sleep over it. I mean, there are people who don't start their practices because they are in analysis paralysis over being HIPAA compliant. It's like, come on, don't worry about it. I mean, no one gives a shit about your little telemedicine practice that has 20 patients. Okay? No one's going to hack into that and get patient data. They're not going to. They have much bigger targets out there. They want to target a hospital system. Okay? So, don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. If you're using an EMR, it's going to be HIPAA compliant. Leave it at that. All right? And another con too is that you should be doing video calls with these people, and sometimes that might not be the best thing. Maybe you're on vacation and your internet connection is not that great. So I do a lot of phone calls at my men's health clinic. I know these people, I know who they are. We've done video calls before. I usually just do a phone call. So yeah, but I say that's probably the biggest. Those are the biggest pros and cons of a telemedicine practice. Oh, and another big con too is, how do people find you, right? It's kind of falls in that marketing aspect of it. You can't have a Google business listing with a telemedicine only practice unless you can find a location to attach that Google business listing to, right? Google is always going to prioritize a local business. Okay, so if someone in an area looks up weight loss clinic, they're always going to prioritize the local clinics within the Google business listings. They're always going to prioritize that in search. Same thing with a lot of the large language models like ChatGPT and stuff. So how do people find you? It's really hard for people just to find you organically with a telemedicine practice, unless you have lots of content, YouTube videos and lots of articles and that kind of a thing, and you start ranking for it. That takes time, and it's not really a guarantee. That's why you have to pay for, some ads. So I'd say that's another big con with telemedicine practice is that it can be difficult to have a Google business listing. It can be really, really difficult to have that. People do get around that. They rent a little office somewhere just to attach a Google business listing to, and it costs them a couple $100, a month to have a little Google, to have a little office, maybe a 200 square foot office space in a big office building or something. And they do that, and they attach a Google business listing to it. In my opinion, that's actually not really a bad idea. I mean, if you think about $200, that Google business listing is going to pay for itself. Because a lot of people find you through a Google business listing. They find you organically that way. I'd say 50% of my patients at my men's health clinics they just find us on Google. They just literally find our Google listing, right? If I didn't have that, I would have 50% less patients. That's how important it is. So let's talk about the hybrid practice. This is the practice I recommend. Okay, the pros and cons I just discussed with brick and mortar practice and telemedicine practice, essentially just combine those for a hybrid practice, right? But I'll summarize why a hybrid practice is the best model. Okay, number one, having a local presence is just a good thing. You get your Google business listing, you have a local presence. People like to support local businesses. You have a location where you can do procedures, you can store medications, supplies, etc. People can see you, they drive by, you get foot traffic, so you get all the benefits of a brick and mortar practice, right? And the cons still apply. You still have to pay for the expenses of it, right? But you get that Google business listing, you get walk-in traffic, you have a physical local presence. Okay, those are really the big things. And then the pros of the telemedicine practice is that, if you see a lot of patients via telemedicine through the brick and mortar practice, you get all the pros of the telemedicine practice as well. You get to extend your reach. There's a convenience factor associated with it. A lot of patients, they love the convenience of a telemedicine visit. I mean, I know I do. At my men's health clinic, I haven't seen a patient in person at my men's health clinic in probably like 2 years. I don't need to. You know what I mean? I just don't. But we still have the physical location there, and we get all the benefits of having that physical location, right? My men's health clinics wouldn't be as successful as they are if we didn't have those physical locations. So we have no plans on getting rid of those. Zero plans. All right. But I see the majority of my patients via telemed. The other providers that we have see the majority of their patients via telemedicine as well. It's mostly a convenience factor. It's convenient for the patient. It works great for the providers. We don't have to drive to the office and, sit down and get dressed and blah, 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 get ready for it. So I would say the biggest pro of the telemedicine aspect of a hybrid practice is that it's the convenience factor for the patients. They love that convenient care, all right? And that is critically important, guys. Customers in general love convenience. If you make the customer journey a pain in the ass, you're going to lose the customer. And so that's the beautiful thing about having a hybrid practice is that it's extremely convenient for patients, but you still have that physical presence there. So people can still come in, they can get injections, they can order, they still can have a little bit of a watering hole or something. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many patients that we have at our men's health clinics that they just literally come in to shoot the like they're not there for really any reason at all. They just come in and bullshit for like an hour, all right? But those are our most loyal patients. So there is that benefit. It kind of becomes a local watering hole for people, so to speak. You have all the pros of the brick and mortar. You still do the procedures. Like it's basically all the pros of each model while minimizing the cons, because with a brick and mortar or with a hybrid practice, you're not going to have to spend as much money marketing it as you would a telemedicine only practice. Okay. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest pros of the hybrid practice while integrating telemedicine into it, is that you do not have to spend as much money marketing, because you're still going to be mostly local or regional. All right. But you're going to be seeing a lot of patients via telemedicine, which is extremely convenient for the patient and convenient for you as the medical provider, as the nurse practitioner. Right. So in my opinion, guys, if you are starting a new business, go with a hybrid model. All right. If you are looking to scale your business and open up another location or something like that, open up another location. Go more of a hybrid model if you can. You will do better. But make sure that wherever you open up is not saturated. There's not a lot of competition. Extremely important. All right. I mean, I know people who start practices in such saturated competitive areas and they wonder why they're not doing well. Well, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I can tell you why you're not doing well, because there's 50 other clinics doing the exact same thing as you. Why are you special? How do you separate yourself from that? It's very, very hard to do that in a saturated market. And so, like I've said multiple times, small towns are gold mines. So if you are looking to expand your practice, think outside the box. Look outside of the area that you're in. Find some smaller locations out there and open up some practices out there. You only need 10 or 20,000 people to have a pretty little, a profitable little satellite office. You know what I mean? You don't need that many, guys. You really don't. 10 or 20,000 people that could be a business. That could be a $1 million practice. I know people who've done it in towns of 10, 20,000 people. They literally have $1 million practice. All right. So keep that in mind if you're looking to scale or grow your business and you want to stick to more of the hybrid model. If you're looking to scale your business and you already have an established brick and mortar practice, but you're looking to just expand it via telemedicine and just open up in other states and stuff, be aware you're going to have to spend some money marketing that. All right. And it's going to cost you a lot to do that. And potentially you might not really see much of a return. Okay. Like you might just not really see much of a return. So be aware of that. Okay. So that is the 3 types of practices. All right. So brick and mortar, telemedicine, and hybrid. And in my opinion, hybrid is the best model to go with. If you are in the startup phase of your practice, do not worry too much about the expenses associated with a brick and mortar practice if you're just renting. Don't concern yourself with that, okay? Because it's going to be cheaper at the end of the day to open up a brick and mortar practice, a hybrid practice, than marketing a telemedicine only business. It's just going to, all right? I promise you it will, okay? I am 100% convinced about that. 100%, all right? It is going to be cheaper for you to open up a hybrid practice versus a telemedicine only practice. It's just going to be, because you're not going to have to spend that much money marketing a brick and mortar hybrid practice, because people will find you. You have your Google business listing and you have a website that talks about the services that you provide. People are searching for these things and they're going to find you. You are going to do better than telemedicine only. I promise you, you will. All right. If you have a budget, then you can do telemedicine only if you have the budget, but don't be fearful about spending some money on having a actual physical location, because at the end of the day, it really shouldn't cost you that much money. I mean, it really shouldn't. You don't need anything fancy. Don't go spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month on a location. That's 3,000 square feet. You do not need that. You only need 1,000 square feet at most for most kinds of wellness practices, cash-based wellness practices. Okay, 1,000 square feet is all you need. You can get away with a lot less than that. I know nurse practitioners who literally rent a place in like a med spa or like one of those boutique kind of places, where you go in and there's like a massage therapist and there's a barber, hairstylist, and blah, blah, et cetera, right? And they rent one little space in there. I know NPs who do that, who literally make like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a month. All right. So you don't need anything crazy. It really just depends on what kind of services you're providing. You can have a little 500 square foot place and make it work. You really can. So don't go crazy with renting a space unless you have the budget and unless you are convinced that this business is going to take off. All right. But at the end of the day, you can never predict that. So don't let your ego and your overconfidence cloud your judgment. Just because you think it's a good idea and it might be needed in your area doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. So go into this cautiously. All right. Cautiously. Do not spend a bunch of money. Do not get a business loan for $50,000, $100,000 to start a practice. You don't need it, guys. You don't. $10,000. It's probably all you need. $20,000 at max. Okay, that's all you need to start a hybrid practice, and it could be cheaper than that. I mean, I started my men's health clinics for $7,000 a piece or something like that. I think it was $5,000 for the first one, $7,500 for the second one. That's literally all I spent. I mean, that like that's it. There were holes, but it worked. You know what I mean? Like, patients didn't care. They still came. We still made money, and we moved to a better location, So just kind of keep that in mind. So, all right. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this episode, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Thanks. Bye. Thank you for listening to the show. Quick legal disclaimer. The content of this podcast is meant for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as legal, financial, medical, regulatory, or practice-specific advice. For information pertaining to your specific legal, financial, medical, or practice-specific needs, please be sure to consult with your lawyer, CPA, medical director, and or your state's practice laws and the most up-to-date clinical guidelines. As always, do your due diligence when it comes to any information found online and in podcast. The content in this podcast is copyrighted by Galaxy Medical Southwest 2023 and cannot be duplicated, rebroadcasted, or reproduced without our written permission.